Welcome to another episode of Mexican in the Kitchen. For this recipe, we're going to start really simple. I'm just going to chop 5 tomatoes, couple onions, and 4 cloves of garlic. I will save those ingredients for later. Now I have this can of young green jackfruit in brine. I haven't tried jackfruit before, but I was reading it's quite popular because apparently it has the same texture as pulled pork. That's why it makes it a great alternative for when you want to transform a regular dish into a vegan or vegetarian dish. It comes in bigger chunks, and I can already see this stringy texture. It's coming off quite easily, but it comes with this liquid in the can, and I want to get rid of that kind of taste. So what I will do is put it in a strainer and just run some tap water on it. I'm going to take the chunks of the fruit, and I'm going to start shredding everything with my hands. You can see it's quite simple, it's quite easy. The fruit is quite soft, even though it has this stringy texture, and you will probably have to chew a bit. It's not rubbery, it's not too soft, it's quite nice. You will bump into some chunks that are a bit bigger, or into the seeds, for example. And you can either crush them with your hands into smaller pieces, or I would recommend putting all those apart, taking a knife and maybe chopping them into smaller pieces. This is not only because of the texture, but also because the fruit has a bit of a sweet flavor. So the bigger the chunks, the more you will feel that taste. This is my end result. I ran it through some more water, and I'm gonna leave it here for a while until I need it again. Texture seems quite nice. For seasoning, I'm going to first prepare this cube of vegetable broth or vegetable seasoning. These cubes usually take 1 cube per every half a liter, but I want the flavor to really concentrate, so I'm going to add 300 milliliters instead of the 500. I don't even think you need to put this on the stove and warm it up. I just put the kettle on, added some hot water. We just need to add hot water and dissolve the cube, maybe mix it a bit. And once it has mixed and we have the broth ready, we can set it apart and we'll use it later for our dish. I have my pan on the stove already. It's on a 4 out of 6. I have some canola oil and I'm going to throw my garlic and onion in. I'm gonna keep an eye on my onion. I just want to cook it until I see how it starts changing color. You know, this kind of see-through color it gets. After a few minutes, I can see how it already changed its color. So at this point is when we throw our tomatoes in. We add the tomato later because we don't want all that water to come out immediately. So we let the onion and the garlic simmer for a while, and then we add the tomato. We want to mix our ingredients nicely so the tomato starts losing all that water and we don't burn some of our onion or garlic. At this point we will also add some salt. We will also add some black pepper. I'm going to add a bit of oregano. I'm going to use this chipotle sauce they sell here in Finland. If you cannot find this, you could probably find some chipotles adobados from La Costeña. They come in some cans, and in that case you could add maybe chili or 2 or just the sauce. Here in this case I'm only using the sauce. I just want to get the flavor, I don't want it to be too spicy. I'm using 2 or 3 spoons. Then I will add a couple bay leaves. At this point we will mix all the ingredients, and we just want to reduce the amount of water there is. I've been cooking this for about 10 minutes. You can see the consistency of the tomato has changed a lot. It might look like there's more water now, but it's just the tomato losing all its water, and that's why the consistency is changing. At this point the smell is amazing. It's quite nice, and because the consistency has changed enough, I'm gonna take my broth and I'm going to pour the whole thing into my pan. Again, we will have to cook for about 10-15 minutes to reduce the water even more. We want to reduce this as much as possible. If you were serving this with rice, then it doesn't matter if your sauce is a bit more liquid. But since we are making tostadas, or if you are making tacos or something else, then we don't want as much liquid because then the tortilla or the tostada might get a bit soggy. As you can see, the color of my sauce has changed. This about 10 minutes in, my sauce has reduced by half. It is still a bit too liquid, but I'm going to add my jackfruit now. The jackfruit that is used for the recipes is the green one. This is because, as you know, when fruit is ripe, it's usually more sweet. At this point, jackfruit doesn't have a really strong flavor, but it does have a certain sweetness to it. It also doesn't need to cook for that long, but we do want the jackfruit to soak in our sauce, so it gets as much flavor as it can. So at this point, you just have to keep stirring and reducing your sauce, and you have to do it for as long as it's needed. After about 10 to 15 minutes, my sauce has reduced enough. Some people might want to make it a bit more thick. I think for me, this is the perfect consistency, so I'm going to take it off from fire. For tostadas, we need to make some refried beans. I have a video on how to make those from scratch, and I will leave the link in the description. But for this recipe, I'm using these Isadora beans. They come in a bag, they're sold in Mexico, they're quite good. If you're living in Finland, you can get these from Lasturnas.fi, that's where I get them from. I will also leave that link in the description. They have great Mexican products, they deliver to all Finland. I really like these beans because they're basically ready to eat. They're just a bit too thick, so I'm going to take the content of the package and put it into a pan. Your pan doesn't need to be too hot, just a medium will do. You could just warm them up on the microwave, for example, but I put them on the pan because they're a bit too thick. So what I will do to make them a bit more creamy is to add some milk. If you don't drink milk or you want to make it completely vegan, you can use almond milk or oat milk. This is just for texture. After adding the milk, just mix everything and you will notice that the consistency is a bit nicer. This is how I will do. If you want it more creamy, then just add a bit more milk. For tostadas, there's several options. You can either buy them already made, or you can use regular corn tortillas. I get these from some of the larger stores here. Traditionally, they are deep fried until crispy, so you can do that. But I prefer to do them on the oven. I like the crispiness, and they're a bit of a healthier alternative. The oven is at 220 Celsius or 428 Fahrenheit. I'm going to put them in for 2 minutes. I'm going to do 2 minutes, then I'm going to flip them and do another 2 minutes. A lot of people prefer the deep fried tostadas, but I have the feeling that the oven ones are quite resistant. It's like when you deep fry them, they become a bit too crispy, so they will crumble and fall apart. And it's part of the dish, it's part of the being messy, and they're quite a delicious food. But I think that extra bit of texture helps a lot. We have almost everything ready. Now we have to prepare some lettuce. I want to slice it as thin as I can. I want to make little strips out of it. This is what will bring the freshness to our dish. You can make these strings long or short, that's a personal preference. Now we're ready to serve and I'm starting with my tostada. We want to spread some beans on it. Then we want to add some of our lettuce. Some people might add the lettuce a bit later on top, but I think it helps a bit with avoiding the tortilla to get too soggy. Now we can add our Jackfruit Tinga. This is kind of the star of the dish, so we want to spread that all over. Then I'm going to add some creme fraiche or sour cream. If you want to make this recipe vegan, you can skip this or you can buy. I was looking online and I saw there's a couple alternatives for sour cream they sell. To top our tostada, we're using some avocado. We're not using much, we're using some slices and we'll just add them to the top. At the end, I'm adding some hot sauce to mine. You can skip this step if you don't eat too much spicy food. This chipotle one I'm using right now, it's not super spicy, so it's a nice extra bit of flavor. Of course, you can make your own, and I have a couple more videos, check them out, with some homemade sauces. This is the end result of this video. This is how I make these vegan or vegetarian tostadas. You can of course make it vegan if you skip the creme fraiche or the sour cream. When you're warming up the beans, you can change it for the almond milk instead of the regular milk. But this is a really nice option. I was a bit surprised, to be honest, because I've tried the mix of kind of tinga I did, and it really tastes quite close to what it would taste if you had chicken. Of course, you can tell it's not meat. I would lie to you if I tell you this is exactly like chicken or pulled pork, but it's really good, really nice. You can feel a bit of the sweetness of the jackfruit, but I was quite surprised, and I'm gonna try this now with all the other ingredients. Yeah, I must say that the crunchiness of the tortilla and the corn taste is really nice. It works really nice with corn and beans, go really hand to hand. They're quite nice. The cream, the chipotle sauce, the avocado, everything works quite nicely, and it removes a bit of this like sweet flavor that jackfruit has. I think if I would be served this and someone tells me it's just like really fine chopped chicken, I could believe it, or I could think that maybe they just used a really little amount of chicken, a lot of tomato. That's what people really use in Mexico quite often. They will make a lot of tomatoes, a lot of onions, because then the dish is way cheaper and you can make more of it. But I would say this is a great alternative. I don't usually try making vegan, vegetarian dishes, but I was really surprised. I think you should try this if you have the chance to find jackfruit. At least I hadn't heard of this until I moved here to Finland. I saw the cans, they were on a discount shelf. I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I was surprised that you could do this pulled pork and chicken kind of dishes, because I had never heard of it. So quite nice. I would definitely do this more often than meat. It's a great alternative. It's quite fresh. This dish particularly is quite nice. It's really messy, so don't worry if it starts crumbling or you make a mess. That's how you're expected to eat this kind of thing. You can put also any kind of topping you want. This is just like a vegetarian kind of version, just to try this jackfruit. But hope you liked the video. Press like, subscribe, all those kind of things, and see you in the next one.